Someone says snow bunnies to jungle bunnies. Why? Well, I was just referencing what's going on with Maduro, essentially, because that was so interesting. So Maduro, this is like the second story that I want to talk. So Maduro just offered Trump basically all of Venezuela's like oil, gold, minerals, all of it in exchange for essentially backing off. And what's funny is Trump told him to go fuck himself. Which honestly is probably the most interesting part of this entire situation because it tells you what Trump's actually trying to do down there in Venezuela. By the way, they have the largest proven reserves of oil. Remember that, by the way. So let me back it up then. If you haven't been paying attention, the latest developments there. So we've got U.S. warships in the Caribbean right now. We got 3 guided missile destroyers, 4,000 Marines, F-35 stationed in Puerto Rico, submarines. I've got the whole package, dude. 10% of our naval power. That's what they estimate is just parked off Venezuela's coast. Trump's been authorizing strikes on those boats. They say are carrying drugs. Right? He's killed over a dozen people in September alone. Doubled the bounty on Maduro to 50 million. And he confirmed that the CIA is running covert ops inside of Venezuela. So that's a new development. Now, the official story is that this is stopping narco-terrorism. Right. So going after the cartels, right? Stopping fentanyl from killing Americans. And there's truth to that. There is truth to that. Venezuela under Maduro has become a narco state. That's true. It's called the Cartel of the Suns. Literally what they named it. Maduro himself is under U.S. indictment for drug trafficking. These boats were blowing up. Boats that are carrying actual narcotics, if you believe the reports. Those would always end up in American streets killing our people. That's one way to frame this, correct? But when you get this offer from Maduro, through intermediaries no less, that tells Trump he can have a dominant stake in Venezuela's oil reserves, freedom. You know, like when you hear that, you can have a dominant stake in our oil reserves, largest proven oil reserves. You could just hear that funny meme with the bald eagle shooting like 2 M16s and the eagle sounds. That was going through my head when I was reading the headline. So they have 300 billion, over 300 billion barrels, plus a ton of gold, dude, and a ton of critical minerals. There's one called coltan. I thought first it was a misspelling, but coltan is it's used in, I believe it was capacitors. So none of the shit we have today would work without capacitors. So that's why it has its critical designation. Anyways, we need all that shit for tech manufacturing. All Trump has to do is ease up pressure on Maduro, right? And Maduro said he'll cut ties with Russia and China, who've been investing heavily in the Venezuelan energy and infrastructure. Think about what that means. That's not just an offer, dude. That's Maduro admitting that he's completely fucked, that the pressure so far is working, and that he's desperate enough to give away his country's natural resources just to survive. And Trump said no. Eat a dick, okay? And the New York Times was spinning this as Trump being reckless, risking more for no reason, right? When there was a diplomatic solution right there, you know, echoing the whole imperial aggression narrative that Maduro's pushing at the UN earlier. But that completely misses the point, because accepting that deal would mean doing business with a narco dictator who's murdered his own people, stolen elections, turned his country into a fucking failed state that's exported millions of refugees and gang members to our borders in America. So if you take that deal, you're legitimizing Maduro, right? You're saying that, yeah, you know, we can work with you as long as we get our cut. That's exactly the same kind of establishment bullshit that Trump ran against. Right? That's the deal that Bush would have taken, that Obama would have taken. Actually, every fucking neocon warmonger would jump at, because they only care about resources and fucking corporate access. They don't actually care to fix the underlying problem. You know, we're going to bring freedom. Look how many countries we brought freedom to. And that shit backfired on us. And the part that I have a real problem with, because Trump campaigned on no new wars. That was the promise. No endless conflicts. No regime change operations. No sending American troops to die in some shithole that has nothing to do with us. He was supposed to be the guy who brings troops home, who negotiates instead of fucking invading, right? Who puts America first instead of playing world police for the military-industrial complex. But what he's doing in Venezuela is gunboat diplomacy. We're applying military pressure to force regime change. And I get the logic, okay, totally. This isn't about nation building, or we're not trying to spread democracy, or, any of that neocon shit. Okay, I get it. It's just eliminating a direct threat to American security and society. So Maduro's regime has been flooding our country with fucking drugs, with gang members. We've heard the news reports on Tren de Aragua. They've spread all over American cities. They're committing violent crimes. The fentanyl that's coming in through Latin America and the supply chains are killing well over 100,000 Americans per year. Okay, so applying pressure makes sense. I get it, totally. Blowing up cartel boats in international waters, which I've said is legally iffy. Don't know about that one. Plus running CIA ops to disrupt the networks, right? We're putting economic sanctions on the regime. We're doubling bounties, all that shit. All that is fine. Okay, great. We'll accept that at surface value. Cool. Okay. I would call that using American power to protect American interests without getting into another fucking quagmire as a good idea. But here's where shit can hit the fan and get really out of control. Apparently, Maduro mobilized 4.5 million fucking militia members. That's a lot of bodies. He's threatening a bloody response, whatever the fuck that means. Venezuela has alliances with Russia and China, who could really well complicate shit if it gets hot. Okay, we got 4,000 Marines, remember that, sitting off the coast. The CIA operatives running inside the country doing God knows what. And Trump's talking about potential land strikes now because the sea operations are under control, but the land-based cartel activities need attention. Okay, so ops are expanding. That's how it starts, you guys. That's how it always fucking starts. You deploy forces for a limited mission. You do some surgical strikes, targeted operations, then something goes wrong. American troops get killed. The mission expands. Have you heard this story before? Suddenly, you need more forces to protect the forces you already sent. And before you know it, you're in a full-scale conflict that nobody wanted, but everybody is stuck with. We've seen this movie before. Afghanistan started as a limited operation to get bin Laden and turned into 20 years of occupation. Iraq was supposed to be a quick in and out. We're getting the WMDs. The war criminal shitheads, fucking Bush and Cheney, sold us mushroom clouds and imminent threats, and it became $1 trillion disaster that killed thousands of Americans. It accomplished absolutely fucking nothing, except it destabilized the entire region. So Iraq, another one, right? Same playbook. Bush and the neocon piece of shit Bolton and all the fucking vultures there at Project for a New American Century, they wanted regime change in Iraq for years. They had the plans drawn up well before 9/11 even happened. And they used the terror attacks as an excuse to invade a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. Fucking strange. And we're still doing business with Saudi Arabia. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? They told us it'd be easy. We'd be greeted as liberators. Yeah, we're freeing them. The Iraqi oil would pay for the reconstruction, right? The democracy would flourish once we got rid of Saddam. All lies. This is bullshit. Complete bullshit. We ended up with 1 million Iraqis dead. We lost like close to 5,000 American soldiers. We spent $2 fucking trillion. And for what, dude? Iraq is still a fucking mess. Iran has more influence there than we do. And then ISIS rose up out of that chaos that we created. Remember that ISIS? They're still operating in like parts of Africa, I think. So this whole thing was a catastrophic failure from start to finish. Libya was the same shit. Hillary and the neocons. They said we're just going to do some airstrikes to prevent a humanitarian crisis. Don't worry about it. We're going to protect civilians for Gaddafi. Quick and clean. In and out. Where have we heard that again? Right? Now Libya is a fucking failed state run by militias and they have open air slave markets. What's our humanitarian intervention accomplished in any of these stories? Fucking nothing. So that's why I'm watching Trump now, who promised no new wars, who criticized Bush and Obama for exactly this same kind of shit, who said that we need to stop being the world's policeman, setting up the same exact playbook in Venezuela now. Why? Why? It makes no sense. And then in Venezuela, Maria Machado, this is the actual winner of the election in Venezuela that Maduro stole. She just won the Nobel Peace Prize and dedicated it to Trump. This dude has been thirsty for a Nobel. What the fuck? Dude, the glazing. So she got recognized by the US as the legitimate leader, fine, okay, which is basically us saying Maduro has no legitimacy and that we're going to support whoever we can to replace his ass. That's regime change language. That's not, we're just stopping some drug boats. No, not anymore. We're going to overthrow your fucking government and install someone who we like. Are you fucking kidding me? Boy, oh boy. I read somewhere, no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. It's starting to be true. Nothing ever happens and you get John McCain. Yeah. And yeah, look, I'm not saying, I was reading in chat, I'm not saying that this dude doesn't deserve this shit, by the way. The guy's a fucking narco dictator. He destroyed his own country. He stole elections. He tortured dissidents. But deserving it and us being the ones to do it, that's two different fucking things. We're not the world police, okay? We do not have unlimited money and unlimited troops to go fix every shithole dictatorship on this planet, especially when we got our own problems back home. I'm over it, dude. How many more videos do I have to see of Philadelphia and God knows what other fucking city in America with people doing the zombie walk, okay? So the Senate, and this has been bipartisan from what I saw, is trying to pass resolutions to block Trump from unauthorized military action. And for once, I think I actually agree with them on that aspect. Not because I give a shit about international law or diplomatic norms or any of the globalist bullshit, but because Trump made a promise to his base that he would not start new wars. If this escalates into a full fucking conflict with Venezuela, then that's exactly what he's doing. So, yeah. Someone said, is putting the elected leaders in office regime change? If you do it with force, obviously. And are they going to celebrate us as liberators? I don't know. Here's the thing. If Trump can keep this limited, if it stays at the level of just pressure and targeted strikes and okay, even include the CIA ops inside the countries to disrupt the cartels without turning it into some form of like an occupation, then fine, dude. Okay. That's using American power smartly. That's protecting our interests without getting sucked into nation building and forever wars again. But I don't trust that it'll stay limited. I mean, how could we trust that? Think about this. The CIA authorization is where this shit goes off the fucking rails. Covert ops inside Venezuela, disrupting cartels, that could mean anything, right? Is it simple intelligence gathering? Is it full-on sabotage or targeted assassinations? Arming opposition groups? That could mean whatever. That's all the shit that the CIA has fucked up repeatedly in Latin America for decades. Do you guys remember the Bay of Pigs? That was a CIA op. And that turned into a fucking disaster. Iran-Contra was a CIA selling... Dude, we were selling weapons to fund rebels. And it became a massive scandal. Every regime change that the CIA has touched in Latin America blew up in our fucking face. Literally, it's called blowback. They have a word for that shit. It created more problems than it solved. So when Trump says that he's authorized them to go in and handle the cartels and, we're supposed to sit back and trust that this time it'll be different. How? That this time the incompetent spooks will stay within bounds and not create another clusterfuck? Historically, it doesn't look good. Go fuck yourself. We're not just going to trust you to fix the shit because we haven't trusted you in the past to do things correctly. And look, I get why Trump's doing this. The alternative is you have to accept Venezuela is going to be a fucking failed narco state on our doorstep forever. Totally. Right? Exporting drugs nonstop and fucking refugees and gang members and whoever else and just dealing with the consequences domestically. Yes, I understand. At some point, either you accept, right, the problem or you use force to stamp it out for good. Okay. I understand the logic. But the whole point of the foreign policy was supposed to stop trying to fix other countries' problems, America first, right? Or at least stop trying to fix other countries' problems with our military. We spent trillions in the Middle East, and what do we have to show for it in the Middle East? Iraq is a mess. Afghanistan fell back to the Taliban, you guys, the second we fucking left. And we left them hundreds of billions of dollars in our armaments. They're flying our fucking helicopters. They're driving our Humvees. That was the worst pullout in history. All because That was Biden's fault. But still, we fought for how long there? And only for the Taliban to just come back and then get recognized and have to deal with them officially at like governing bodies internationally. You got the Taliban representatives and shit. That's a joke, dude. That's a spit in the face to every American that ever lost their lives or limbs or whatever else fighting there. Libya, failed state. Syria, divided between, I don't know how many dozens, right? Of fucking factions. How many are there? I think they have a winning faction. But every time we think we can use military power to reshape a country, it backfires spectacularly. That's all I'm saying. Trump negotiated the withdrawal, yes, but Biden was the one that pulled out willy-nilly without, handling things properly. So I'm just saying, why the fuck would Venezuela be different? If you overthrow Maduro, then what? Do you think the opposition just takes care of everything? Or I should say takes over and everything works out? You don't think there's going to be competing factions? There's going to be some power struggle there? Maybe a potential civil war? You think Russia and China are just going to walk away from their investments without making trouble? Really? As if China and Russia, after all the money they've pumped in there, wouldn't then fund their own opposition groups that would try to do their own coups on the government? You have to think about this. This isn't just like, we'll kill Maduro. Oh, game over. Fuck yeah, America first. Machado takes over. Great. No. Then it devolves into civil war. You think everybody is going to be happy Maduro's gone? He has his own supporters there, and they'll be armed to the teeth by China and Russia. Come on, dude. It would be a strategic mistake, especially with a war in Ukraine, especially with Israel not fucking backing down in the Middle East, and especially with China starting to flex its muscles and looking at Taiwan real close. You really want to get stuck in this quagmire in fucking Venezuela of all places? That's a distract. And exactly, we just gave Argentina $40 billion. We've doubled the bailout for Argentina. How is this America first? I don't understand. At first, it was the $20 billion bailout and then doubled. Yeah, exactly. So this is the neocon logic, right? This is the same shit Bush sold America on Iraq, right? That if we just get rid of dictators and democracy will flourish and everyone will fucking love us, dude. It's bullshit. It's always been bullshit. And Trump should know better. Seriously, he spent his entire first campaign shitting on exactly this kind of intervention, calling out the neocon warmongers who got us in these messes. And he promised his base that he would be different. That's all I'm saying. Refusing Maduro's resource offer makes sense if you're trying to force his regime to collapse internally. That I understand. If you take the deal, you're just buying a stake in the corruption. You're propping up a narco state in exchange for oil access. But refusing it means you're committed to regime change. And regime change, what does that require? Long military commitment or getting lucky somehow that the opposition can win without us getting dragged in there. So I want to believe that Trump can thread the needle and apply just enough pressure for the Maduro dictatorships to completely collapse. And without us ending into another forever war. But, I've seen too many presidents already promise these so limited operations and they turn into unlimited disasters. That's the sad part. If Trump breaks his no new wars promise, which he has already, if you consider bombing Iran, but this time to overthrow a South American dictatorship, that's a massive betrayal of the base. I don't know how MAGA is going to be able to pin that award on themselves because we voted America first, not America global enforcer. Everyone voted no more endless wars, no surgical operations that metastasize into occupations. Everybody voted to drain the fucking swamp. It's not happening, right? Not to export freedom at gunpoint to anybody. While all these fucking neocon shitheads in DC are the ones that are actually getting rich off all these defense contracts. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, fine, blow up all the fucking boats you want, run intelligence ops, apply all this economic pressure, make Maduro's life hell. Go for it, dude. Double the bounty, triple it, 10x it. I don't give a fuck. Freeze his assets, sanction everyone in his regime. Cool. But the second this turns into troops on the ground or some sustained combat operation, then Trump will have become exactly what he campaigned against. And that's going to be a problem, especially during, let's just say, midterms, if not a problem for Vance, right? Because the people that backed Trump specifically backed him because he wasn't a neocon like Bush like fucking Cheney, Bolton, all these other blood-sucking parasites that send our people to die for fucking corporate masters. Wait and see, I guess. That's all. That's all we can really do.